The former U.S. President Donald Trump's trial in Georgia could start as soon as March the 4th of 2024. That was the date proposed today by the Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. Trump is facing 13 counts in that state specifically for allegedly trying to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. It is another legal battle Trump faces in the middle of his run for the White House. Now, the first Republican presidential primary debate is coming up next Wednesday, just 2 days before the deadline for Trump to surrender for arraignment in Georgia. There's a lot to talk about in this story still, so joining me now is Joe Walsh. He is former Republican candidate for president, former congressman, former Republican, and now the host of the podcast White Flag with Joe Walsh. Welcome to Power and Politics.
Great to be with you.
And great to be able to put my questions to you. Earlier this month, Donald Trump said he needed one more indictment. If I can quote him, one more indictment and this election is closed out. He has that now. Will he be proven right?
Yes, but I think he would have been proven right even without this last indictment or the indictment 2 weeks ago or the previous two indictments. I think that so many of us here in America, and I would say around the world, have been very slow to understand that we have two major political parties in this country, and one of our major political parties is an anti-democracy cult. This is Trump's party. I think he was going to be the nominee no matter how many indictments he has.
But now that he has his fourth, how do you think he'll try to capitalize on that fourth or weaponize even that fourth indictment in his campaign?
Heather, it will be his campaign. His legal battles, his legal fight will be the entirety of his campaign. And let me explain. I talk to Trump supporters every day because I used to be a Republican. More than anything, they believe Donald Trump is a victim, that he's the most persecuted human being in the history of humanity. So every time Trump's indicted, it's the deep state, it's the government, it's the man, it's somebody going after him. This feeds his strength. And all of the Republicans running against him, if they want to win, they have to echo what Trump says. Right. He's not going to campaign talking about any other issues. He's going to try to demand that the Republican Party defend him with all these legal battles.
So I'm wondering what might happen to that support, specifically in Georgia. What will the impact be, do you think, on his supporters of seeing that arraignment on the 25th deadline and then the trial play out, as is the case in Georgia, before the television cameras?
I can only tell you what Republican voters and Trump supporters tell me. When he's charged, when he's indicted, it only enhances this narrative that he's a victim and people are going after him. So it strengthens him politically in the Republican Party. I doubt that, look, Fani Willis down in Georgia said a March 4th trial date. That was her throwing a date out there. The Trump team will request another date. So I think a lot of these trials may even be pushed beyond the election. Maybe one of these trials will be dealt with before the election. So we're going to have a 3 to 4 times indicted candidate running against Joe Biden.
You mentioned Fani Willis, and that March the 4th date was the breaking news today. For people who aren't so familiar with the presidential calendar, that's a Monday. The Tuesday, March the 5th, is Super Tuesday, when 14 states are holding primaries, and that's really when things get whittled down to just a handful or even one candidate. What do you make of her choosing that date to start the trial for Donald Trump?
Well, I don't think it had anything to do with the politics of where the Republican primary would be. And, truthfully, I don't want to come across as boring, but I just don't know that's a big story. Okay. Right now, Donald Trump is far and away ahead in this race to be the Republican nominee. And this is really important to say. No one's even close. There really is no other alternative in this race. Republicans have coalesced around Trump. The one candidate who a lot of anti-Trump people put their hopes in, Republican governor, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, has simply cratered. And there's no anti-Trump lane in the party. So if you are like a Chris Christie, if you're anti-Trump, you don't have a prayer. So right now, there's no other alternative. It's Trump.
We're going to see DeSantis and Christie and the other opponents who have qualified on the stage coming up in the first Republican debate on Fox, which is on Friday, the 25th. It's on Wednesday, the 23rd. The arraignment deadline is Friday the 25th, and again, the 23rd is that first Republican debate on Fox. Donald Trump has qualified, but he's not said whether he's going to attend. Do you think he will?
Oh, God, no, he won't show up. And
why not?
Look, I say this and I believe it. Donald Trump is a coward, but he's not afraid of Chris Christie, and he's not afraid of any other candidate. Donald Trump is afraid of not being the center of attention. So he has to get all the attention. Him not showing up will be the big story. In fact, him not showing up, and he wants to force all these other Republicans on that stage to defend again his legal fight. He'll sit and watch that on TV, Heather, and he'll just eat it up. He'll eat it up.
How do you think the other candidates will handle this? I mean, it's pretty tricky territory. They'll have to address it in some form, whether he's there or not.
I have zero sympathy for these Republicans, and I say that as a lifelong Republican. Look, they put themselves in this impossible position. Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, Nikki Haley, all the rest. They surrendered to Donald Trump years ago. They never held him accountable. They never went after him. They never criticized him. Now he is this big monster that's all too powerful and all too strong to defeat. I mean, think about it. He's been indicted 4 times, and none of the serious candidates will condemn him or criticize him.
We did
Why?
We did hear from Mike Pence today, rather forcefully. He was speaking at the National Conference of State Legislatures, so a summit going on in Indianapolis. Here's what he said. The Georgia election was not stolen, and I had no right to overturn the election on January the 6th. Was that a significant break or rebuke?
No, and I know Mike Pence. I like him. I served with him. He didn't mention Donald Trump's name there. Mike Pence is just dancing and straddling on top of this fence. He has said if Donald Trump is the nominee, he'll support him. No, they're all doing the absolute bare minimum because they're afraid. They know what I know, what you know, what everybody knows. The vast majority of Republican voters are with Donald Trump. So what they're all trying to do, Pence, DeSantis, and the rest, is hug Trump as best as they can, defend him as best as they can, and hope and pray that somehow Donald Trump is out of the race. Either he's in a jail cell or a heart attack or something happens to him, and they want to be the alternative then.